Back on the Marching to Madness College Basketball Podcast this afternoon with a first-time guest, Coach Quinton Ferrell from the Presbyterian Blue Hose. He begins his third season at PC, and he's working to move the team back into contention in the tough Big South Conference. Coach, welcome.
Ken, thank you for having me, man. Excited to be here.
Yes, sir. And you know, unlike the past two seasons, you're going to have plenty of veterans and returnees this time. I see 5 starters, 11 letter winners. Talk about the approach with practice now that you have this many vets. How's it different?
Yeah, well, for me, I feel like it's been a long time coming, having some returners. And I think the best part about it so far has been obviously their familiarity with the system. And
Mhm.
so what it's allowed is for us to really focus on the details and the specifics, and nuance of our offense and defensive philosophy. And so that's been a welcome sight to be this early in the process and to be able to really focus in on those details. So that's been very new for us at PC, but definitely welcome.
I know you subscribe to the Princeton style of offense, right? And I'm curious now. Can you talk about? Everybody knows the backdoor cut, right? That's elementary and stuff. So, what are some details that might evolve off the backdoor cut?
Well, I actually worked for a guy named Zach Spiker, who's the head coach at
Yeah,
Drexel at West
Drexel.
Point. Um,
Mhm.
and he ran some Princeton type stuff, and that's where it really piqued my interest as a young assistant at the time. And so I always felt like when I got my chance to run my own program, I would implement, some of those concepts. And you speak towards the back cutting in the offense, and it's really an offense where you move the ball from side to side. You get a lot of ball movement, player movement, and the pace of it really makes it hard for the defense to kind of feel settled. You know what I mean? And so it creates all these opportunities for open looks, layups at the rim, and it just gives you really good flow. And so I've just come to really appreciate it.
Mhm. Well, you've got a really good one there. It'll be front row and center, I think, on most of your fans. Flipped cards, and of course, your game. That's Rayshon Harrison. He was a Big South Freshman of the Year, 17.3 points, 5.6 rebounds per game. Once you guys, implemented things throughout, what was, I guess we'll always refer to it as COVID-19 campaign, how did his game take off and how did he evolve for such a prolific season as it was interruptions?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for Rayshon is that he's an everyday guy. So the moment he stepped foot on campus, he just showed up, the same way every single day, and that's kind of bringing his lunch pail and working hard. And then just over the course of the season, the game started to slow down for him. He got more and more comfortable, and he was able to kind of find areas on the floor where he was effective. And I think one of the biggest things I think he developed as the year went along is his playmaking ability,
Mhm.
because obviously he can score the basketball, but as the year went along, we were able to put the ball in his hands, and he was able to create easy, open opportunities for his teammates. And he's an unselfish guy, averaging 17 points. Obviously, he's scoring it a lot, but he's very unselfish. And so as the year went along, my assistant coach, Nick Legrune, who's his position coach, did a tremendous job with him. And I always told him, man, I was really surprised and pleased with his development as a playmaker. So now we were able to put the ball in his hands and he was able to go score it. But then he was also able to take advantage of the defense and get his teammates, high quality looks.
Sounds like a very mature demeanor. And of course, that equates with his focus and his concentration on the game, plus some resiliency. Uh, how do you, when you look at that, kind of correlate his stat line to his intangibles?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes hand in hand, because I
Mhm,
feel like, his ability to only care about winning, and
mhm,
to buy into my vision and what I call PC basketball, and for him to fully surrender and give himself to the team, I think
mhm.
it's just the kind of the trickle down effect of that for him. And then it allows his talents to, kind of rise to the top and kind of be at the forefront.
Yeah, Trevon Reddish. is one of your best defensive players. He averaged 10.2 points, 3.9 rebounds per game. Talk about the jump, that he made, I guess, from last season to this season.
Yeah, Trayvon's a guy that I think, has a chance to be one of the most improved players, in the Big South and in the country. I was able to be a part of his recruitment, the last recruiting class I was a part of at the College of Charleston. And Trayvon was a very sought after kid coming out of high school. He's a 6'5" point guard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think him being in my system for a year, because obviously with COVID-19 and him transferring for a long stretch, we didn't know if he'd be eligible to play. And so
Yeah.
he kind of, got the call that he'd be able to play, when they made the blanket waiver that allowed everybody that transferred to play immediately. And so he kind of just took that and ran with it. And I think from last year to this year, I think with him having a better grasp of the system, and just his just overall, comfort level being in a new program. He's a really talented guy. He's a really good defender, as you mentioned previously, but I also think his scoring and playmaking will take a jump as well. And I think him and Rayshon will really form a very formidable backcourt in the Big South and in the country.
When you talk about Winston Hill, here's a guy in the paint, 12.1 points, 6.1 rebounds a game. What's the difference that he'll make in the paint, especially when you put those two good experienced guards out there with him?
Yeah, I actually think Winston's probably one of the better low post scorers in the country.
Mhm.
Winston was a Division II transfer from Francis Marion. And
Yeah.
his sophomore year there, he averaged about 22 points and 10 rebounds. Last year, when he got to us, he had been in a walking boot since the season had ended. And he actually ended up having surgery in the fall. So Winston got cleared to play in January. And so he played last year really just off of guts and, his talent level, but he wasn't in great shape. And he's worked really hard this past spring and summer and now this fall to get in the best shape he's been in. And I think he'll be another guy that'll be able to show a lot of improvement just overall as a player. But a natural low post scorer, like a guy that'll have to get double teamed, which, in the Big South teams double teamed him last year. So really good touch, can stretch out to three and make threes, can face up and drive. So just, big wide body, like I said, in good touch. So just has a knack for scoring the basketball as a big guy inside.
Well, now you've got a transfer coming from UAB, Terrell Ard. That's a big man. Now, do you kind of subscribe to the theory to play more than one big most of the time, or?
Yeah, well, you know what? I like to kind of, I would say, play three guards and a forward and one post,
Mhm.
more like a wing guy. And Terrell is a big guy, but he just so happens to be skilled enough to where he has really good perimeter skills. And not only that, he has perimeter skills, but guard like in the sense he can make decisions with the basketball.
Mhm.
So we mentioned a guy named Jarrell Brantley that played for us at
Yeah.
the College of Charleston, who ended up getting drafted by the Utah Jazz. He was a 6'6", 250-pound power forward, but so we got the luxury of kind of being big at the 4 and the 5, but he also, because he could stretch out and make a three and could play make, it gave you some of those elements of having a fourth perimeter player. And I think Terrell will be able to provide some of that. He's very unique as a player, I would say, with his ability to be big, athletic, and physical, but also skilled enough to where he can make a three and then make decisions as another, perimeter player driving and creating for other guys as well.
Well, you got Brandon Younger there on that roster. I remember him up at Charlotte, and he averaged, I think, 6.9 points. He's a 3-point shooter. What are your expectations for him this year, and how does he fit into the puzzle?
Yeah, Brandon's a very, talented guy, extremely long, has like a 7'1" wingspan. I've really tried to simplify things for him and just really give him a role that he can, flourish in. And I think he can do at a high level. So, really for him, I want him to be, I wanted to start with his defense, his energy and effort and focus and tenacity on the defensive side of the floor. You mentioned his ability to make a three. I think he can shoot the ball well from three. So we want him to be a guy that spaces the floor and make threes. But running the floor hard in transition and getting transition threes and easy baskets. being a really great offensive rebounder. I feel like that's an area where he can really help our team. And the big thing with that is, going every time to the offensive glass. So we've tried to make his role really defined, because we feel like he can be a guy that can really make an impact, with his skill set and with his physical tools.
Now you have, I looked at your freshmen, you have an impressive group there, and I stopped there with Marquise Bennett coming in. He from the state of Ohio. He was an all Ohio second selection. Sorry. He averaged 24.2 points, 9.3 boards. What kind of role do you envision for him early?
Yeah, Marquise is an interesting story because he was what I guess people would consider a late bloomer. He
Mm-hmm.
grew later in his high school career. And I think he was also a guy that was impacted by COVID in terms of his recruitment.
Mm-hmm.
We feel like Marquise has a chance to make an immediate impact, in our program. He comes to campus with a college, ready body, at 6'4",
Wow.
205. And he can kind of do a little bit of everything as a guard. He can make the three, he can
Mm-hmm.
play make. He's a really good passer. And the thing I've been most surprised with him early on is his defense. Because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times that's an area where high school guys, when they get to college, they haven't had to play the type of defense you're expected to play at the college level, because the game's a lot easier for him, obviously, in high school. But he's shown great signs as a defender early on in his career, and I think he'll be a guy that'll be a great player in college.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you about a couple of things here that are just college basketball related, real quick. Um, the transfer portal and the way it's manifesting itself through college basketball. Are you concerned about that on the level for maybe your players, but also on the level for really good high school kids that might fall between the cracks and not get recruited like they would have?
Yeah, I do, to a degree, definitely feel for high school kids, because I think it'll reduce some of the opportunities that high school kids have in terms of just sheer numbers, with scholarships. For me personally, I don't mind it at the college level for the college guys.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like every program, you're responsible for what goes on in your program. And I think, us as college coaches, I think it's our job to create an environment, and to recruit young men, and them, realize that them coming to my institution and playing for me is bigger than just basketball.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're just trying to foster a culture of guys really believing in the entire process of coming to a university or a college, the academic side, right? And then you got the basketball side. Because I think so much always gets put on the basketball, you know what I mean? And, every school is unique in itself, and it offers a great, experience and opportunity for all of these student athletes. And so I think, as a head coach and, and on down to your assistants, I think it's our job to kind of promote everything that our experience embodies on our campuses. And I think that'll help, with retention and keeping your guys there. I think, if you're transparent, in the recruiting process, and, just really let guys know, what the entire experience is going to be like, I think you have a better chance of retaining your guys. But I think for the individual, if they feel like another situation's a better situation for them, then, I would never want to hold anybody back from doing what they feel like is best for them and their family. And, you only live once. So,
Yeah.
if they feel like they need to be elsewhere, I support them wholeheartedly.
Coach Quinton Ferrell, the Presbyterian Blue Hose up in the state of South Carolina, right out in the western part of the state of South Carolina. Coach, it's great talking to you. I really enjoyed our conversation, and we certainly need to do this again. Maybe we'll get up into the season and see how everything's transpiring.
That sounds good, Ken. Hopefully we'll be on a roll. Hopefully we won about 7, 8 in a row at the time when you check back in. So
Yeah, I'll keep an eye out, man.